Hi,
everyone.
Theresa. Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Hi, girls. So, for everyone that doesn't know, um, these young women own a podcast called Conversation with Friends, and it's sort of a place for young women to provide support for young women, company, and sometimes just enjoy a conversation to eavesdrop on. And I'll let you girls take it away to explain a little bit more about your podcast. We're all really eager to know what you guys share on there.
Yeah, I hope you can all hear us and everything's working because
we had some Wi-Fi problems, but yeah.
Okay, good. I also prepared a little presentation just so you guys can follow us along. I think I can just share my screen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please do. Try clicking on there and let me know if that works.
Yeah. So like you already said, our topic of the day is kind of like our podcast, but also the power of podcasting and how we think social media changes the way we communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before we get into the topic, we just want to introduce who we are. You already said that, yeah, we have a podcast, but I'm just going to say, hey, I'm Theresa. I'm 21 years old and we both live and study in Berlin. I study journalism and communication. And yeah, I also love writing and reading and doing yoga and also love talking. And that's why, perfect. And that's why, we decided to have a podcast, but more on that later.
Yes. And hi, I'm Carol and I'm 22 years old. I also live in Berlin with Theresa. And we both study quite similar things. I study communication science and journalism and also movie production. And I love dancing and just hanging out with my friends and just in general talking. And that's why we kind of started the podcast.
Yeah. Amazing.
Okay, just a little background on why we started the podcast Conversations with Friends, or like how we came up with the idea. It kind of was funny because there was just I worked in a cafe and there was this guy approaching me and he said, you should start a podcast, because he really liked my voice. I don't know if he was a creep, but maybe, I don't know, that idea stuck with me. And I was like, you know what, maybe that's a cool idea. And then I kind of started getting into podcasting more and like looked at videos and I listened to more podcasts than I did before. And I really fell in love with podcasts and podcasting. And I was like, you know what, maybe, I actually should start my own, but I didn't want to do it by myself. And I was like, okay, I really want to do it with Carol. And I thought it would be the perfect match to do a podcast. So I asked you.
And I honestly wasn't too sure in the beginning because Theresa was really into podcasts and I wasn't really too much of a podcast person in the beginning. But we talked a lot about it and everyone, because we asked all of our friends if we should do it and they were like, yeah, you should definitely do it. You guys are the perfect match for it. And you just have such good energy. And then I started getting more into listening to podcasts as well. And I thought that was like a really, really good way to communicate. That's why we kind of started it and we're just having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. I think that's also the main part, just to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us to the next point. We kind of wanted to point out like our main goals and kind of tell you guys what's the main motivation behind a podcast. Yeah. So first of all, we wanted to kind of create a safe space in the podcast. Our goal is that every listener should feel like they're in the room with us and, start a conversation in the podcast, but as well with our listeners on a more personal level about, topics that are not talked about enough and quite deep ones as well. We did an episode about the topic depression, but then on the other side as well on topics that are not that serious. So kind of keeping the balance between them too. And especially at the moment, during the pandemic, it's really difficult to communicate with people in person. That's why we wanted to make people feel heard through a podcast and through conversations with friends, and also kind of connect and to kind of create a community in between our listeners and with our friends and just in general, have fun. That's the most important part.
Yeah, and it's also cool that everyone can just click in and listen and feels like they're, like you said, in the room with us. And we really want to just motivate people as well to start conversations more and communicate more and just, maybe talk about topics that you wouldn't talk about maybe as much.
Exactly. But yeah, have fun is the most important part.
And with that, we kind of also wanted to touch on an important thing. And we also kind of realized it while or just in general, growing up, I feel like our generation, we're both I hate the term, but we're both Gen Z. So we kind of grew up in this generation where I think I got my first phone with like 13.
Same, yeah.
And I definitely, like, looking back now, it definitely influenced not just our generation, but influenced everyone and the way we communicate, especially. And I also read a study this morning, and it said something about like 40% of the world use like social media as their main form of communication. And I thought that was crazy that just like so many people use it as their main form of communication, and how big social media has become. And like I use like WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram to chat with my friends. And I think there's a lot of pros and cons that come with that. And I think a big pro obviously is like the speed of communication. It's not just for us in our daily life, but also businesses. You can just write an email, send a message, and most of the time you'll immediately get a message back, no matter where they are in the world. And that can also be negative, but also very good. So yeah, I wrote it down as a pro. But then also groups of purpose. I think with groups of purpose, I mean that basically no matter what you're into, what you really like, and you will always find someone online that has maybe the same interests as you, no matter how weird it is or specific. You'll find someone, you'll find your group. If you don't maybe have struggles also connecting in real life, you always have the like chance of connecting online and finding your peers, your groups there, and really connecting with people that are like-minded. And so kind of like build this group of purpose, which I think is also really, really beautiful. And then also one big one that I personally really love is that you can connect with various cultures, and various cultures can come together. I mean, like us today, like Jenna, you're in Bali right now, we're in Germany. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing that you can have like conversations with people all over the world, and there are no boundaries between us. So that's a really, really big pro. But then also cons, like I was already saying, like because we have so many modern forms of communication now, we kind of like the face-to-face communication kind of loses its importance. Like obviously it's still important to talk to people in real life, but now that we can talk to people online and we have our phones, I feel like a lot of people get more like awkward or like have more social anxieties and don't really know how to communicate anymore and like to talk to people. And I think that's a big, big con. And it's kind of sad. And also adds to the next point, which is that our attention span is way shorter. Like our attention to real life things, I see that with myself as well. I get really impatient. I feel like a lot of times I want everything. I want everything to be quick. Yeah, everything to be quick, and I want a fast response, and I don't really have the attention to really focus on one thing anymore. And that's also a con that comes with it. But also, the chances of a good and meaningful conversation. I feel like a lot of people, because they have such a short or like small attention span, they don't really get into those conversations anymore. They don't want to talk that long or chat that long because they're always like so fast paced. They want to get to the next place and hustle culture and just like, always moving on, but they never really sit still and look around and connect with people and talk to people. And that's also why we decided to start a podcast and use podcasting as our form of communication, because we really think that podcasting gives us the opportunity to still have those meaningful conversations, even though it's still social media.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings us to the next question. And that is, why did we choose podcasting? First of all, podcasting for us is a really kind of different form of social media than Instagram. We can, just comparing those two right now. And, it's more personal for us to communicate with the people, with our audience, with our listeners. So for example, with all those visual platforms like Instagram or YouTube, they all touch just one sense. So like, no, they touch more senses. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. And like, you hear a lot of stuff, you see everything, you read, and that's why your attention is on so many different things at the same time. But with audio, with podcasts for us, they touch just one sense. That means that you're truly paying attention to one thing, and you're truly paying attention to the conversation that these people are having on the podcast, on the episode. And at the same time, also, it's not all about the superficial things. So it's not about, the look of a person or just in general what she looks like. So it doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. You can start a podcast wherever you are, whoever you are. And that's a really, really positive thing for us. And, with them just touching one sense, the audience just really pays attention to what we're saying, and that's a really positive aspect of everything as well. And at the same time, for us, it's quite a challenge because we sometimes have to take care of what we say, like obviously not
too serious.
Yeah,
like
exactly. But
say swear words, for example.
Exactly. But at the same time, we really have to pay attention, like, that we give our audience the best quality possible, and the best topics, and that everything is well. And and lastly, podcasting tries to show the person behind the picture and not like Instagram or YouTube, the person on the picture. And that's why it gives people a chance to show their personality, for example, but also their insights and what they think.
Yeah, we're also not trying to say that we don't use Instagram. I think we still do.
But just like to compare both of them.
Yeah, it's just more like podcasting. That's what we really love about podcasting, that we also sit in our pajamas sometimes while we record an episode. And it's just so beautiful that we can just speak and people listen, and we can only focus on our conversation. And like you were saying, it's also obviously sometimes challenging that we try to because it's so focused on what we're saying.
Yeah, we have to be careful and everything.
But I think it's really amazing. And that's what I also love about podcasts. When I listen to other podcasts, is you can also do it while you're doing other things. Like I love listening to podcasts while I'm walking somewhere.
Or having breakfast or something.
Or cooking. It's just like a really nice form of, listening to something. You feel like you're in the room with someone. And that's what we love. And that's why we wanted to start our own podcast to, basically have that with other people and have that connection. And that's pretty amazing. Oops.
But yes.
Yeah, we also wanted to we were thinking about as well the future of social media and podcasts. We were thinking about that a lot, especially with things going on at the moment. I guess everyone was there when Facebook broke down, and just I think we kind of saw how also the system behind social media and how much it controls us, or how unstable it sometimes can be, and how dependent we are on those platforms. And I remember I was with Carol when that happened, and I was just like, wait, oh my God, no one has social media anymore? That's
everyone's
crazy.
Just kind of having to talk to each other now.
And I think that's a lot of people were starting a discussion do you think we should stay on social media? How is that going to look in the future? And we both kind of came to the conclusion, I personally also think that social media will stay with us for a long time. And we shouldn't always be social media is all bad. Obviously it has a lot of negative effects, but it also can be used as a really positive tool, like podcasting, or you can have your personal brand and you can get in contact with so many people and learn so much and meet so many interesting people as well. And we really want to emphasize that positive effect of social media and the positive, use it as a positive tool. And we really think that should be the focus in the next couple of years, to really shine light more on okay, social media is there, it's not going to disappear, so might as well try to
do the best out of it.
Yeah, do the best and just try to use it in a positive way, and also maybe analyze, okay, how am I using social media? How much am I on this app, and what's good for me and what maybe is not? Is it good if I follow all these people, but maybe I can just switch and follow more of those people? And we really trying to, as well, we're both still figuring out the best way to do that. But we definitely think social media will be there in the future. But what do you think about podcasts?
Yeah, I think, in general, podcasts are already really big at the moment. There's so many podcasts, it's so hard to even choose what you're going to listen to. And since it's so big already, it's such a good tool to communicate with your audience, like I already said in the beginning, especially during a pandemic where a lot of people are in lockdowns, and in lockdowns people are benefiting from this form of socializing and also connecting to their outside world. So that's a really, really positive side for us of podcasting, and I think that will stay on for quite some time as well. And also, like I already said, the world of podcasting is so flexible, and it's really easy to find your way around it, because when we started it, obviously there's some technical aspects that you have to learn and everything.
Still do.
Still do. But it's so easy to start a podcast, and that's why we were like, okay, why not? And I think that's so good that everyone can do that, and also communicate their insights or what they think, and everyone can start a podcast on anything. It doesn't have to be conversations with friends. It can be political, social, I don't know, about
true crime.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different ones. So I think we think that's a really, really, really good aspect of podcasting, and I think it will stay like that.
Yeah, I think it's also cool because you get so many insights from different perspectives. Like, can also be that you have a really different opinion than most people have, and you can share that online, and you don't need to have the best audio quality.
Yeah,
I feel like you can just start with your phone. Like, obviously, like we were saying before, like, you're listening, so people would like to have good audio, I think. But I find myself listening to podcasts where it's not the best audio, but I just really find the people talking so interesting and captivating and what they're talking about. And I do think actually, like, it already is pretty big, and a lot of people already have podcasts, but I do think it will also be even bigger in the future, because of those aspects we said before, because of the pandemic, and people want to have people to talk about. Because I personally think people want to start having more meaningful conversations, and not just really short conversations, but still obviously having the effects of, like, it's easy to use online. You can just download Spotify.
You can do it from anywhere as well.
Yeah, and it's for free, and it's just like, really easy to tune in, and you can do it from anywhere. You can click in when you want, you can click out when you want. You don't have to listen to the whole, like, 45 minutes or whatever. So I do really think that podcasts will get even bigger in the future, and also I hope we're going to do this for a longer time and keep growing and learning. And obviously always open for people, if you guys have any recommendations or tips or things we should talk about or things we can maybe change. We're always, like, we have our Instagram account as well where people can text us. I think we can try to maybe also make the Instagram account more big, because we just started our podcast like a few months ago, so we're still working out what to do with it, but we're having a lot of fun, and it's also amazing to have opportunities like being on here as well. And
we're really glad.
Connecting with a lot of people also who have podcasts, and it's a really beautiful thing, and I can only recommend it to everyone. But yes, sorry, just have a thank you for your attention.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. So you said you started this podcast a couple of months ago. And do you use any other social media platforms to promote it? So you mentioned Instagram.
Yes, we have an Instagram account, and we're also currently planning on creating a website.
Okay.
But we really want to make sure that it's all good. I know a lot of people use Facebook, but I honestly have to say that I'm kind of not, like, I feel like we're in the generation where you don't really use Facebook anymore.
It's more kind of, the focus is more like on Instagram. And
I think, like, if you get Facebook ads, for some example, that's like something different, but we're not as big yet. So we're just focusing, or like trying to focus more as well on Instagram, because it can be really hard to have your own Instagram account and
also do the podcast. So, like, just at the same time, then you have to think, what we're gonna post and everything. But we're just using Instagram at the moment, and then also the website as kind of an addition.
And do you feel, so how do you get your podcast out there? Like, how do you get people to know about it other than Instagram? Just word of mouth, or
kind of sent maybe like our friends on WhatsApp the links and everything?
Word of mouth, but also I think like we're trying to get bigger on Instagram. But then also we have, for example, we have a friend on soon. We recorded an episode with her, and she's also an influencer, so she will be like sharing it. So I guess just like trying to like tell people to listen, but also sharing it on social media, also on our personal Instagrams, not just like the podcast Instagram. We also created the podcast Instagram as well for people to text us concerning the podcast, but I still also get messages on my normal Instagram.
Yeah, me too.
So we're still kind of like figuring that out and trying to find the best ways of what we can use. Maybe also one day TikTok. I heard like a lot of people using that for podcasting as well, because we also get inspiration from other podcasters on Instagram. We follow a lot of pages and see what they're doing, and TikTok is definitely big thing as well.
Yeah, that kind of influences us, but also inspires us to get other ways. But we'll see with TikTok. I'm not really in the TikTok game yet, but
we're figuring it out. Yes.
And how do you go about finding speakers for your podcast?
Well,
what was that? I didn't.
how we find speakers on a podcast, like people guess.
I get like I because I feel like it's conversations with friends. We kind of, we're kind of looking in the circle of our friends. So, people who have really inspiring stories for us, or that we would like to talk to about different topics, and that we think would be a good match. But
Yeah, I think we have like so many interesting friends. That's basically also why we started. We have like so many cool friends that have cool stories to tell. And we're like, okay, we're going to start with that. And then also we have stories to tell. So that's how we found most of the speakers for now. And we also have some lined up that we're speaking to. But then also, obviously, one day
we're going to run out.
We're going to run out of speakers. And I think then I would probably just like text someone on Instagram, or like I was already looking at some people that I would love to have as guests on the podcast, but I don't personally know them, but I think I would just try to reach out to them on Instagram and just send them a DM.
Yeah, and see what they think. Yeah. They're interested in talking to us and everything. I think that should be cool as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the name is really catchy. I really like it. Conversation with Friends. I feel like it flows really nicely, and it sounds like it's really catchy. It sounds like it's something that, that's almost familiar, that we already know. Like when someone often, tells you about a book and you might not have read it or heard about it, but the name is so catchy that it feels familiar and it feels like you already know it, and you've,
I feel like it also makes you like really like feel warm inside when you hear like, conversations with friends. Like it's kind of
definitely
kind of catches you and makes you feel comfortable.
We actually thought about like naming it Talk That Talk before.
Oh, that's really harsh.
Yeah, it's kind of like then we were thinking about it, like Talk That Talk kind of sounds like your parents are like trying to like have the serious talk with you, and that's not the vibe we wanted to give off.
Oh yeah. So and it doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
Yeah. So we kind of like switched it, but it's also funny that you mentioned the book, because there is a book out there that's called Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. It's actually quite.
Oh, there we go. That's why.
Yeah.
Familiar.
Quite popular as well.
Oh, of course. Actually, yeah, I know that book. That's why I was like, I feel like that name just sounds like something so big.
Yeah, it's something I know.
Yeah, I hope she was not mad at us for stealing her name, but yeah, it's a great book, by the way, if anyone wants to read it.
Recommendation.
Yes.
Cool. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? How do we get to the chat box? There we go. Do you girls want to post the link to your socials on the chat for anyone in the audience?
Yeah. Sure. I can just stop. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm just gonna write it in here. Just gonna. I have to look up the Instagram.
I think it's .pod.
Yeah, .pod. Okay, yeah.
That's the one for Instagram.
Yeah, for Instagram. And then I can also write so all these we're writing right now is Instagram. The website's still coming, but we just want to make sure everything's perfect before we publish it. Yeah, that's my Instagram. What's yours Instagram?
How do you do that?
Yeah, if you guys want to tune into our chat or feel like you want to maybe be a speaker as well or a guest on a podcast, always feel free to text us on any of these platforms or accounts, and we will respond, and we'll be really happy to hear from you guys.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much, girls. Thank you for presenting Conversation with Friends and sharing your insights, tips and tricks. And we have a question from Vanessa asking, how do you see the evolution of social media and the podcast in 10 years?
Oh, well, I mean, we kind of talked about the future already.
It'll be 2031.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in 10 years in general with the world? I feel like 10 years is pretty far away, but I honestly still stay with the same thing we said before, that I feel like it's kind of hard to say, because it could go two ways. I feel like it could either grow more and get really big, and it becomes even more of like a communication tool, but it could also, like we saw with Facebook, it could also just crash one day and everything disappears.
Yeah. And no one knows what's happening.
Yeah, but so far I do believe the first thing would happen, that things are getting bigger, but I also do think, like we said before, that it grows, but I think people will be more mindful about using social media and how they use social media, and more aware what it does to us. Yeah. But what are your guys' opinion? You can also share if you have.
Vanessa's asking, the next question is, what are your thoughts on AR? AR being virtual reality, sort of like, have you heard of the goggles that you can put on and you have like a, yeah. Do you feel like social media is taking that route and that approach and sort of turning towards more of a virtual reality?
I think it's like virtual reality is like, for me, not so much social media yet. I don't know. Like I've tried out the I think I've done it once in my life.
Yeah, you did. I was there.
You were there. It was actually in Australia. And it was really, really crazy. But like I said, it's not really social media for me yet. I don't know. What do you feel about it?
Well, yeah, I think that's like what the question also is, if it could turn into that. I think I've never tried it. I think it's really interesting. I really want to try it, and I'm always open to new things. And like I said, I do think there will be more additions to social media. So I do see it as a possibility, but I also I'm kind of scared of it as well in a way, because the more it gets real, the more I feel like we lose sight of our own reality, and it's kind of like, okay, what is real then and what's not? I don't know if you guys watch Black Mirror. I'm a big fan, and I feel like
I was thinking about that too.
They always touch on those things, and sometimes I watch the show and I'm like, oh, it's kind of scary as well, but also exciting. Like I feel like it could also open up a lot of doors. Like we were talking about that in uni the other day, how it would be if you could join, for example, a protest or a political movement with those like AR or like virtual reality like glasses. And I was like, okay, but then people wouldn't show up in real life anymore. Like, I feel like, I don't know, it can be really cool, and it can give you the opportunity to be in places where you physically can't be, but also is kind of scary and can also bring a lot of negative effects. So I feel like we have to be a bit careful with the whole virtual reality aspect.
Yeah. And I mean, for protests in particular, if people are doing that through virtual reality, then we wouldn't be getting much change in the world.
Yeah. Imagine everyone walking around. Glasses, yeah.
Super cool. Well, so glad to seeing the younger generation sharing some talks on podcasts and setting new sort of topics for people to discuss. That's really cool. And we're excited to see who your next speakers are going to be and what you're going to do with your platform as it grows.
Well, really excited too.
Yeah, so exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, girls. Oh, does it serve me? So.
Yeah, that's a good thing, actually. Does it serve me? Like, good question.
Social media?
Just in general, like, do I need this? I think that's like adding to what we were saying before, like being mindful of how much we consume. And I think that's like a good thing to ask yourself, does this serve me?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how it was meant. And
yeah, absolutely.
in with yourself. Yeah.
Just being aware of your consumption.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions in the audience before we finish off this chat?
I think there's a question there. Michelle?
Oh no, that was because Michelle was planning on being a speaker as well for the talks. She was asking about the format.
Okay.
Oh, well, thank you so much, girls. That was really insightful, and we're really excited to see Conversation with Friends grow. If you need any speakers, I'm more than happy to recommend people as well. So feel free to reach out on Instagram, and yeah, have a lovely day, I guess, with the time difference there in Berlin.
Yeah,
3:30 here.
But it's getting dark soon because it's winter here. So we're like, oh, I'm sorry, the lights going away.
Oh,
yeah. It's a bit sad.
Okay. But yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for joining the talk.
Thank you.
Bye.